And she's like, Lindsay, you're not going home. And I looked at her, I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, no, you made a commitment. You're living here as a maiden.
Are you starting to pick up more and more? Like, this is getting darker. What's going on after this encounter with Victor?
I was like screaming on the inside to get out with nobody there to help me.
Life is wild. Faith, marriage, parenting, work, all of it. 1 minute you're inspired, the next you're in chaos. That's why I started No Longer Nomads, the podcast that throws you into the deep end of real stories and authentic truth. We're talking ex-witches who found freedom, former Muslims who met Jesus, mountaineers who even survived the wilderness for 6 days, and much, much more. No Longer Nomads, because no one was meant to wander alone. New episodes drop every Tuesday at 5 a.m. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this episode of No Longer Nomads. I'm your host, Josh Doyle. You are in store for a good one today. We have on the show Lindsay Tornambe. She is a cult survivor. In fact, she actually took the entire cult down. This is an episode you do not want to miss. At 11 years old, her family moved out to a camp in northern Minnesota, quickly turned into a cult. Lindsay, at 12 years old, was given away to the main guy as a maiden. So this is an episode you don't want to miss. It is incredibly powerful. Lindsay is a strong believer despite all the stuff she went through. So there are definitely some warnings for this show. We'll put them up beforehand, but before we jump into it, just want to say thank you guys for subscribing. We're almost at 18,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is bonkers. 1,000 plus followers on Apple, almost 500 on Spotify. Write in. We'd love to hear from you guys, what you're liking, what we can improve on, and of course, leave a 5-star review. That helps a ton. You can go to Apple. You can leave that 5-star review. Thank you guys. And go to the website. We got sweet merch. This one is a awesome shirt. On the back, we have the Dry Bones Rise. We have another shirt on there and then a hat as well. So thank you guys for your support. It means so much. And let's get to this episode. Well, welcome to the show, everyone. We're so glad you're here. We got a special episode for you today. We have Lindsay on the show. Lindsay, thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. Good.
Good.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I heard your story and was just blown away, and just so much courage, so much honor that you did to really, we'll get into it, of course, but there's just so much bravery on your part. Really from the lifestyle you came from. So I'd love to know a little bit about you. Tell the listeners who you are and just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. I am Lindsay Tornambe. I'm a single mom to an 11-year-old daughter. And we have moved around a little bit, but we landed in Texas for the past few years and are really enjoying it. I work in sales, which is pretty great. Get to meet a lot of people and talk to people. My daughter is in all the sports, so it's
nice.
Gets pretty busy with horseback riding and soccer and drill team and all the fun things. So gets pretty busy, but it's awesome. Good. I love the season of life we're in.
That's good.
So,
I love that. Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm so excited. We're in studio, and we're so excited to have you in studio. We have my brother here, Tommy. Tommy, say hi.
Hi, good to meet you. Yes, heard the story and just thrilled to meet you in person and love to hear more about it and more about you, and cool to hear about your daughter and love that she's in sports. That's incredible.
Well, let's start. Would love to start at the beginning. And so feel free to just take it away wherever you want to start, and then we'll just kind of ask questions along the way.
Yeah, that sounds good. I grew up in a household. We believed in God. I was raised to, we read from the King James Version of the Bible. My parents were involved in something called the Way International. Mm-hmm. And so we had church in our home growing up. There were some major differences that I know now that I didn't know then. We didn't believe in the Trinity. So we thought that God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit were all three separate beings. Okay. And there were some other things, like if, Romans 10:9 and 10, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is your Lord and Savior, you believe that he died on the cross for you, you receive the Holy Spirit, signed, sealed, you're going to heaven. You could go out and live like the devil himself, but you're still going to heaven, which now, I know that it's a continual daily of repenting of your sins and, asking God to help you. So there were some like core differences. But I was the oldest of 5 kids and we were really tight, me and my siblings. My parents met this guy, Victor, they met him in 1996.
Okay.
He came to our house.
Was it through the way that they met?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So he had also been a part of the way.
All right.
And the people who introduced him to my parents were also from the way. So it was kind of, a friend of a friend. And I was 9 at the time.
Okay.
So still really young. But when you meet someone and they just have this presence about them, this like authority, and he absolutely had that. He carried this type of, just like authority with him. And I didn't spend a lot of one-on-one time with him. But the lady who was referenced as Jan in the podcast, The Turning River Road, she was also there. So I had met her at that time as well. She was telling me all about the camp that they lived at in Minnesota, all the kids that were there, and it sounded like tons of fun. I remember after they left, my parents, they had gotten involved in something called Amway before this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they were all gung-ho about that. I mean, my mom had written "Go Diamond, Go Ruby" with her eyeliner pencil on the bathroom mirror. And after they met Victor and he left, it was like they did a complete 180. They said, we're going back to the word, and things really shifted in our house as far as, I guess, what they prioritized. And we started making visits out to the camp. And by it was November of 1998, my parents decided to move us out there to Finlayson, Minnesota, which was quite a change.
Now, your first visit to the camp, what were your thoughts? Do you remember that well, or was it?
Yeah, I do. I remember me and my sister right after me. We were the only kids who got to go along.
Okay.
We drove out there, and I remember driving through that town of Finlayson. It was literally, you could blink and you would be right through it,
Oh, tiny. Okay,
yeah, it was like so tiny. And I remember we pulled into the camp, and it was this kind of like long driveway with all these pine trees everywhere. And you would make this turn and go down the hill, and there were people everywhere, so many kids. And it just seemed like a ton of fun, they took care of animals and they played soccer and went swimming, and it was just...
Seems like an ideal spot.
Yeah, always having friends to hang out with, Now,
did Tur own the whole camp?
I don't think he owned it. It might have been like the trustees of River Road owned it, but it was owned by like River Road Fellowship, I believe. Yeah. So
you go check it out. You're like, this seems like a pretty ideal setup here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And at this point, what was going on with your parents? Were they willing to just up and move, or are we not quite there yet?
I don't think quite there yet. Maybe more so my mother.
Okay.
Yeah. She was always
So you're just checking it out, and you're invited. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Checking it out. I know we were invited back. My dad is gifted musically. I mean, he's so talented. Could sing anything, play any instrument. Had a band in the 70s, still in the same band. They kind of reunited.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So he was invited back, and we all went. I think it was the next summer, the summer of 97, I think. And we got to record, or he helped with like recording the music and everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So we visited a few times here and there, and me and a couple of the kids would write letters back and forth. This was pre
fun.
like iPad and pre-phone.
Oh, yeah.
So. Yeah. Snail mail.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Man. So you guys are checking it out. Your mom maybe was a little more all in.
Yeah.
Or willing to. What did it take for your family to go, let's uproot our lives and let's move on to this, and, move on into this little compound, if you will?
Yeah. I believe it was October of 1998. Victor came to our house, so flew to Pennsylvania just for one day. And he met with my parents and the family that had introduced him to Victor.
Okay.
And another individual in our basement. And I wasn't in the meeting, but I do know the general idea of what happened. He basically told them that it would no longer be available for us to live here and visit the camp, that we were either going to join and move our family there and be committed, or that was basically the end of us being, going to Minnesota and,
Wow.
having any
Quite the
involvement with them.
ultimatum.
Mhm.
Man.
Yeah. And so he basically had them make a decision, and my parents decided to uproot and move all of us, which at the time I was kind of excited. I did not think it was going to be that we like never saw my other family, like my aunts and uncles and cousins. I had no idea what was to come. In my mind, it was like, okay, all these kids that I've made friends with, I'll get to see them every day. And we were already being homeschooled by my mother. So it wasn't like we were involved in extracurriculars or had friends at school that we were leaving.
So was that conversation like with you guys as a family? Like, hey, we're moving, or was it exciting? Was it, there's excitement on the horizon? How did that conversation go?
Yeah, it was pretty much just like that. Like they made a decision and we're moving to the camp and putting the house for sale. And I remember there were some things that the camp needed, some of the families. So like our furniture was brought up to give to somebody else. And I remember my like aunts and uncles coming through the house and my mom telling them, okay, well, you can take any of the pictures on the wall, any of the frames that you want, because she would always get our pictures done at Olin Mills. I don't know if that's a thing here in Texas, but back east, it was this photography place you could go to, and it was with the blue
was it
brown backdrop.
Yeah,
Like
I remember
pointer shots
I was
or
big
something?
in the malls. You'd go in and
Yes.
have like a backdrop that's like already preset up, and every family's got the same photo on their fridge.
Yeah, with you was sitting in the white chair on the carpet. Yeah, so she had like a whole wall of us kids throughout the years, and one of my aunts was like, "Oh well, Peggy, don't you want the pictures?" And she's like, "No, I'm not taking them." Which I just talked about this in therapy a couple weeks ago. I took my daughter to therapy with me.
Yeah.
My daughter's response to that was, "Didn't your mom love you?" Which I had never really thought about that. It just goes to show that like that concept was so foreign to my daughter Frankie.
Yeah.
That she'll never know that kind of like rejection or, not want me not wanting pictures to remember her by. And so
were you getting little red flags during this move?
No.
Like knowing about pictures not being taken or anything like that? You were just
No.
kind of excited?
Yeah, I was.
You were pretty young still too.
Yeah, I was only 11.
Okay,
Yeah.
so but still able to probably pick up on some of that stuff. But
Yeah.
Interesting. So
Yeah, and I would say the relationship with my mom is much different than what Frankie and I have now. Like we are very open with one another. We talk about so many things. My mom and I didn't really have that. And I don't know if it's because, she had 5 kids.
Yeah.
She was an alcoholic, which I didn't know at the time.
Before or during your
Yeah, when I was little.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that. But now that I'm like learning things about her, it makes sense. Because I remember when I was in 2nd grade, I was responsible for getting myself up in the morning, making myself lunch, making sure I got on the bus while she was still sleeping. And if I missed the bus, she would tell me to go to the neighbor to have them take me to school.
Wow.
And I was like 7 years old. No, literally could not imagine.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's River's age right now. I mean, go to the neighbor's house, buddy.
Right?
I do remember walking ourselves to the bus though, and
in Colorado,
like
bus
so
stop.
far away, and our dog would always follow us and get on the bus with us.
Oh,
kick him off.
Yeah.
But man, so you guys, she says, let's leave the photos behind. And then did you just pack up one van and your like one carload and go, or what was it like? What was the moving process like to get up there?
Yeah. No, I know we packed like what are they, like the
U-Haul.
big Penske van, something like that,
yeah.
like one of the huge ones, because it was our family, the family that introduced us to Victor.
Okay.
They decided to go too.
Yes. And a couple others who were like in our home fellowship. decided to go at the time. So it was this huge caravan. I remember they got walkie-talkies, to go between the different vehicles. So
I'm sure it's exciting.
I was excited. Fun. I was like, oh my gosh, this is fun. Who can, like, at a rest stop, oh, can I ride with you now? Can I ride with you?
Totally.
So yeah, it was fun. I do remember my mom, like shortly before we got to the camp, at one point, she kind of joked, should I put on my wedding dress? So when we get there, I can be in my wedding dress. And I thought it was strange at the time. I was like, no, like, don't do that. And maybe it was more, as a kid, you get embarrassed by your parents,
Sure.
Yeah.
But looking back on it now, it was September of 98, Victor had taken off his wedding ring. And he basically said that, in the Bible, Jesus Christ, or the church is the bride of Christ. And so him taking off his wedding ring kind of symbolized that, he was married to the church now. And so I think maybe in her mind, it was her showing her commitment to Victor and like being there, but it's just weird. It's like, who does that,
Was Victor married?
Yeah, he was married and had four kids.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And did they live there in the camp?
Yeah,
Okay.
They lived in the house next door to him.
Okay. So it's fun. You're caravanning out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's it like when you get there? What's it like when you get to the camp?
Do you have your own house, or where are you guys living?
Yeah. No, they put us in, it was called the Fourplex. It was the place that the Maidens eventually moved into when we became the Maidens. So it was this, almost like this building that had 4 mini apartments in there. They each had like a 2-burner stove and a mini fridge, a bathroom, and 2 bedrooms with a small living area.
Okay.
So they split our family up into 2 of them because there's 7 of us. So I think it was me and 2 of my sisters and 1, and then across the hall it was my parents and my other 2 siblings. So it was fun in the beginning. We still were all doing animal care. In the morning, we were all homeschooled together.
Yeah.
We would, ride around on our bikes with our BB guns and play cowboys and Indians and cops and robbers. And I remember we'd take the twine from the hay bales and tie them onto our handlebars and like try to ride our bikes like we're on horses,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And we'd go ice skating, and there was a pond on the camp that went out into this beautiful lake.
Okay.
And so we'd go swimming there. They had this floating dock. So it was honestly a lot of fun in the beginning. Still moments of being scared. I knew that I never wanted to make Victor mad because he would just shun people. I had seen him throw people out of the church for not agreeing with him. At one point, my youngest sister, I don't even know what she did, but we called it being reproved. It was when you would like get yelled at or corrected.
Okay.
One of the elders there picked her up and shook her so hard that she ended up peeing herself. And I think she was maybe 5 at the time. So things like that, like, instilled a fear in me that, like, yes, I was having fun with the kids, but I never wanted to make
Victor.
Yes.
Tread carefully around them and the elders.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, how many people were at the camp?
I think at that time there were about 80 people who lived there.
Okay.
Eventually there were some other properties. So there was the camp, and then I would say maybe within a 5-mile radius from the camp in a few different directions, there were some other properties. So I think it was the spring of 2000, they acquired a property called 3 Taverns, which is where my family and the family who introduced us to Victor ended up moving to, along with some other of the believers at that time.
Now, did the folks like your parents and the other adults there, did they still work, or were they just there taking care of the camp and working for Victor?
Yeah, I think some of the adults still worked. Like, a lot of the men had jobs. I know some of them had like construction companies and painting jobs, and one of the properties actually had a butcher shop on it. And so a lot of the men, some of the men worked there.
Okay.
One of the other properties was a dairy farm. And so people were employed and had other jobs.
Did many people leave the camp? Were you there pretty much 24/7? Obviously, the men were working, some of them off-site.
In those early years, we left a little bit more. I remember going to Goodwill, for clothes, because we weren't making our clothes yet, or the grocery store or the library. We were able to do things like that. As the years went on, it got more strict.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did the people in the town know that, oh, hey, these are the people that live at that camp up there? Like, did you feel like you were treated any different or?
Not at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
At that point, it was still pretty normal.
Dressed still in normal clothes. I remember my grandparents, my mom's parents came up to visit us. It was, oh gosh, I may have to look in it might have been the summer of 99, maybe. They came to visit us and we took them to Duluth. We were still doing activities like that.
Okay.
So yeah, it was pretty normal.
So at this point, there's not any glaring red flags. Maybe you don't want to cross Victor. Things are still pretty ideal. You're running around with the kids. You're able to have people visit. You're able to go, and do activities with people that are visiting. When did things start to unravel?
I would say the summer of 99. That's when Victor, he called it the summer of love.
Okay.
So my family was now at 3 Taverns. And he preached a lot from the Song of Solomon. He started preaching some from the book of Ruth with Ruth and Boaz. And so, yeah, the summer of love, it was, I think, really him embodying what he thought like being married to the church should be.
Okay.
And instead of putting the focus on, everything in our life should be to glorify God, and it was really to glorify Victor. And so he would travel. He had this RV. He would travel to the different locations, and people really started treating him with a lot more respect and honor from what I saw. And that was the first summer that my parents had me and my 3 of my siblings, all the sisters, sleep in a camper with Victor. Now we didn't sleep in the bedroom with him, but one of the girls who eventually also became a maiden, she was maybe like 8 or 9 years older than me. She was living at 3 Taverns at the time and kind of like set to take care of him. When he came to visit, she would, help him organize his day and, all that kind of stuff. She was there with us. And I remember it just being so awkward. Like I didn't understand what was going on, and nothing like physically happened as far as being abused.
Yeah.
But still I say that and I'm like, okay, well, still putting us in that situation.
How did that go down with your parents? How did that conversation happen to, you guys can all stay in the camper with him tonight? Was it maybe some conversation that he had with your parents? And I don't know, like as a father, I think that's hard to let your kids, probably you're the oldest, and so the younger siblings, just to go and stay in a camper with someone. So was there any sort of manipulation, or have you?
Yeah, I actually wasn't really involved. I don't know if Victor talked to my parents. I believe it was the girl though, had like talked to my mom and was like, they could come have a sleepover. I'm almost positive.
It was innocent. It was maybe
yeah, from what, but that is, and I still have the note. I didn't bring it today, but he slid a note under the door because we stayed in the like kitchen area on blankets there. Me and my sisters did to sleep, and he slid a note under the door from the bedroom to the kitchen, and it just said, "I love you." I still have it, which sometimes I'm like, why do I keep this stuff?
Yeah.
But
let me ask you one more question too. So what were the wives like towards him? Was there a difference between the women and their husbands? Like, was there devotion there from the get-go?
At this point, definitely fawning over him. And it came, I don't think Dove's Eyes didn't happen yet, and Being in Twos I don't think happened yet, but I think just the adoration for him and the respect for him. There was a song that had come out that talked a lot about and for love we will follow where you lead.
Okay.
Our hearts joined together as one in sweet harmony. And it was talking about the shepherd and his flock. And Victor always related it to he is the shepherd. And so I think the women were definitely seeing him that way and wanting to be close to him and have that relationship with him. And it was not like that with the men, like Victor would come and help tend the sheep with us. We called it like taking them on a graze, and we'd be out there. The dogs would be out there. We'd put a blanket down, and, the married women would be out there, and the husbands wouldn't be doing that with Victor. It was more the women, spending that time with him and hearing his thoughts and him sharing things.
Man.
So real quick, did he consider himself did he say he was like a pastor or anything, or would he say he's the leader? And then also, did he say he had any direct connection to God or anything that he hears from him directly? Or
Yeah, good question. He told us that he had heard God audibly speak to him, tell him to shepherd his flock. So he said he was ordained of God. You know how normally if if the apostles were ordained by Jesus Christ, he was ordained by God. And so he was our shepherd. He was we didn't really use the word pastor, but our shepherd, our leader, pretty much when you break it down, almost like Christ in the flesh, which is crazy because he would always warn us about that. Beware of those who come, they're going to be like sheep or wolves in sheep's clothing. Yeah. But here he was.
And that shows you how, like, he's saying this and people are still like, yeah, we got to keep an eye out for him. Meanwhile, he's literally right there in front of him. That's crazy. So anyways, let's keep going though. So you've been there for a little bit. You guys go into the camper van with him. And then what happens? What happens next? So you're still in school, and tell us what about the summer of love.
Right. Yeah. I mean, nothing really happened for me then.
Okay.
Life just went on still, being homeschooled, working in the gardens. I'm still playing. Like I was still playing even with the young men my age at that time. So that was normal. Like no weirdness then. It was I think January, February of 2000. He had his RV brought to 3 Taverns, and he had called me to go into the RV for something. I don't know if I was bringing him like a letter or mail or something. And when I opened the door, he was standing in the back naked. And that was the first time that something like this had ever happened to me. And of course I froze, I had just turned 12.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So really young, still like not developed at all. Had never had these talks with my mom, we never talked about sex or like anything.
Yeah.
And so that was the first time he called me back to him, and he actually had me touch his penis. And I still I feel like in my heart, like it's like just clamping up right now.
Were you just petrified?
Yeah. Almost just like a deer in headlights, and I remember him telling me that I could do more if I wanted, but I didn't. I think he got the point. So that was really the end of that. And he told me not to talk to my parents about it, not to talk to anyone. They wouldn't understand it. But this, was a way for him to like show God's love to me. And that was like pretty much it.
So twisted.
And so, yeah, absolutely. And so because I'd seen him throw people out of the church, seen him get in people's faces, throw stuff, spit in people's faces, I was so terrified. I didn't tell anyone. I just kept it to myself.
Maybe even thought that it could come back and hurt your family, right?
Yeah. So I did not say anything. And at that point, like I knew that I should have love for him because my mom loved him, because all the adults loved him, I should have these feelings of adoration, and he is my shepherd and he knows what's good for me because he is one with God. So I didn't even really question it. I was just like, okay, I threw it in the back of my mind and just buried it there.
Okay.
So didn't even tell siblings or friends or anybody?
No.
Wow. No, you say 3 taverns, is that right? So all the families, they weren't centralized. They kind of spread out on this property.
Let's see. You go down the, again, long driveway, dirt roads.
Yeah.
And if you would make a right, there were 3 trailers down there, 3 double wide trailers.
Okay.
So my family lived in one of them. And then there were 2 other families in the others. And then if you had kept going down that original driveway up the hill, there was the big original farmhouse up there.
Okay.
So that's where whoever was kind of, we called them twig leaders, which was from the Way International, how they organized stuff. So you would have the leaves of the twig were the believers. The twig leader was the person who was leading that fellowship in their home, and then they reported there was I think a limb leader who had 10 twigs under him.
Oh, interesting.
Kind of like a pyramid system,
Gotcha. Yeah.
So whoever was the twig leader lived in that farmhouse.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So going back to the story, this happens as experience with Victor, and you don't tell anyone. And so what happens next? We're still in the summer of love. Is it still that same summer that this happened?
So that the summer of 99, he called it the summer of love. So yeah, the summer of 2000.
Oh, this is next. Okay. Next year. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So keep going. So what's going on next? You guys are, are you starting to pick up more and more? Like this is getting darker. What's going on after this encounter with Victor? What's going on just in the camp?
Honestly, like life went back to normal then,
Okay.
I mean, I think it was, we were still just like being homeschooled and still like buying our clothes and going to the library. And there were some things that happened, he did this thing called the Eagles Are Gathering.
Yeah.
Which I think that was in 99 though.
Okay.
Even then I didn't like think that was weird.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
that.
Okay. Nobody could go. I think it was either 30 minutes or 30 miles outside of where the camp was,
Okay.
the shepherd's camp. Because when Jesus Christ comes back, we would all need to be there so that he would know where to gather us from. And so he basically said that anytime you hear the Eagles are gathering, you drop whatever you're doing and head to the camp. And so one Sunday morning, we're in our trailer getting ready for, we called it Twig for fellowship.
Okay.
And all of a sudden we heard this huge bell. There was a bell up at the farmhouse going off and people are screaming, the Eagles are gathering, the Eagles are gathering. And I freak out. Everybody is kind of excited. You're like, oh my gosh, this is it. Jesus Christ is coming back.
Yeah.
And my mom, we pile everybody into the van and cars are just zooming down the road and it's dirt road. So it is like rocks flying everywhere and dust. And, we get to the camp and Victor announces that it was just a drill, that it actually wasn't happening. And people had left shampoo in their hair. They had left their ovens on, their irons on. It was crazy. And everyone was just laughing like,
oh, Victor.
Yeah. Like that was great. Thanks for,
it shows your devotion too.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah, it really does.
and that was probably a test for him to see how much control he really had.
Mhm.
As he's saying, you can't go 30 miles or 30 minutes away. Just so much control and power that he's.
So
grabbing.
he had told the whole group that he had a direct line and knew that Jesus was coming to the camp.
He didn't say it in those exact words, but I mean, pretty much, at least that's how I understood it. You know, like we needed to be there. There was a bridge that went over the pond that connected the pond to the lake. And we lit a lantern there every night so that Jesus Christ would know where we were if he came back.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's keep going. So, we're back in 2000, and so you said things are still seeming somewhat normal after your encounter with Victor.
Yeah. Yeah. I had obviously made some friends, at this time, Jess being one of them, and a couple of other of the girls who had eventually would become Maidens. They all lived at different properties, though, so I was the only one at Three Taverns for a while. And you would hear whispers from the different properties, like, oh, this girl is moving to the camp, or this girl, they're doing this with Victor. And it always just made me wonder, like, what are they doing? Because they were my friends. You know, I was like, I want to be a part of something. You know, I don't want to be left out.
Sure.
And I remember it was the summer of 2000 that everyone went to the camp. Generally once a month he would do an area fellowship, and at the Shepherd's Camp there was a huge chapel, so everyone would come in for that fellowship, and there would be a teaching and songs and speaking in tongues and interpretation and prophecy. We did all that. So it was one of those, and he was talking about how in the Old Testament the firstborn children were a sacrifice to the Lord, and what a blessing and an honor it was for the families. And he read off a list of names of girls that he wanted to move to the camp, and said it would be an honor and a blessing for the family, for them to come and serve, basically serve at the camp. And my name was on the list. What's that?
I'm sorry, I cut you off. I was going to say, but just the girls. There was no...
Just the girls. Yeah, no boys. Mm-hmm.
Were there ever talks like, hey, how come we don't get to do fun stuff? Or did the boys just not really care? Or?
Yeah, I don't know that they're...
I wonder, I mean, I'm sure, probably, because like you said, you felt maybe left out or whatever everyone else doing. I want to go be what the girls are. I want to go do what they're doing. So, yeah, there could be, who knows, behind the scenes, some of that.
So I did not understand at the time it was a lifetime commitment. And we actually joked about this in the Maidens later, that I went into this completely oblivious. I literally thought I was going there for the summer, because we always celebrated something called the Feast of Tabernacles at the end of, I think it was the end of August or beginning of September, which is, in the Old Testament, they celebrated that, a Jewish feast where you would bring in the harvest, the fatted calf and, all the things that you grew. So I was like, oh, we're just going there to help for the summer and get ready for the feast. And then I'll be back being homeschooled,
And you're how old here?
I was 13.
13, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I remember my parents asking me, like, if I was sure I wanted to go. And I was like, yeah. All my friends are going to be there. Of course I want to go. Like, why would I miss out on this? It's going to be like a long summer camp, And I'd never gotten to do that as a kid, except one time I went with my one friend for a weekend, like overnight camp. That was so much fun. So I was like, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad being really sad about it. And my Victor and his wife had given my parents this alabaster tear bottle.
Okay.
And with a verse, I forget if it's maybe Proverbs or Psalms, they that sow in tears shall reap in joy. Somewhere in the Bible. Anyway, he gave that to me before I left. And I didn't really understand why he gave it to me, and he was just like, take care of it. And I was like, I will, but I'll see you guys in like a few months. I did not, for some reason. And maybe it's because I was still a child. I didn't understand that I was basically committing my entire life to not living with my parents anymore, not being with my siblings. So yeah, it was July 23rd of 2000. My parents and my siblings, we all went to the camp, and they dropped me off. One of the maidens greeted me and took me down to the fourplex
that you used to live in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Jan, the lady that was in the turning, she took my parents up to meet with Victor. And I don't know what was discussed there, but
do you think they knew that they were giving you away? It was a lifetime commitment, or do you think they were up on that conversation?
Yeah, okay. I think so.
So they knew.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think at that time they knew all that was going to happen.
Sure.
I will give them that. Like, I don't think they knew the like sexual abuse that was going to take place until a little bit later.
Okay.
But yeah.
No, so if they wanted to, could they come up from where they were living to visit you, or was that not kosher there? Like, you stayed in your area?
Yeah. Even any notes we got, eventually like were read by Victor first, even if it was from our family.
So at this point, he's starting to really tighten up the control. He's, obviously he's been doing the Eagles are coming, and he's, testing to see their devotion. And
Right.
there's a lot of families that are devoted. There are 80 people. Is it swelled up to more people at this point, you think?
Yeah. I think total there was about 150 people.
About 150 at this point. So then he's just like grasping more and more control at this point. He then, brings you guys onto his personal property, and it's ordained from God. It's a life commitment, all that. So your parents know this. They can't see you, as Tommy was saying. And at this point, you still have no clue. You think you're still going to come back home and after the summer.
Yeah. It was, and the first couple weeks there, it was like pretty normal. We were given jobs. We generally were split into twos because there were 10 of us. So an even amount. Some would be working in the kitchen. Some would be gardening. Some would be, cleaning.
Okay.
And it wasn't until probably a month and a half in that I remember talking to Jan. We were digging in the gardens, I think in front of the chapel. And I was like, oh, I'm really excited this has been great, but I'm excited to go home to, start school again. And I still remember she looked at me. She was on these like knee pads, kneeling in the dirt. And she's like, Lindsay, you're not going home. And I looked at her, I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, no, you made a commitment. Like you're living here as a maiden. And I was like, what about all my stuff? She's like, oh, your parents will send over your winter stuff. And,
that's brutal.
We'll like do schooling here, which the schooling like almost non-existent. Yeah. And I just remember thinking, what did I sign up for?
That is so scary.
Yes. Yeah.
At such a young age. And you're like, I didn't commit to it. My parents did.
Right.
And basically you're asking you without really probably telling you the full depth of what you were getting into.
Yeah.
You have this conversation and she's like, no, you're here. You're not going back home.
Right.
And at this point, tell us a little bit more about what you were thinking then. And
yeah, I was just really confused on what was going on. And it was shortly after that. And now I'm wondering if it almost was strategic on Victor's part. It was shortly after that I was first raped by him. And it was at night. He had called me up to the lodge. That's where he lived. We called it the lodge.
Okay.
And we were sitting there. He had this like tannish, orangish leather couch. And then his chair was right here, a fireplace right up here.
Okay.
And the fire was blazing. And he was just talking to me how things were going, how I was enjoying the summer, small talk. And I was very shy around him. Like I used to be a very outgoing kid. I loved to perform. I did all the voices like Annie and the Wizard of Oz, everything,
Yeah.
Very clammed up now. I think because of the fear that I had had been instilled from him. And so then he starts asking me if I had ever masturbated before. And I, honest to God, didn't even know what the word meant. I mean, again, my mother and I never had these types of talks.
No birds and bees stuff. And
You're
pretty sheltered too on a camp.
Yeah.
For, you've been there for a little bit.
They did have a book when I was little that I don't remember her going over with us, but it was basically showing, it was just these like drawings of how chickens make an egg and how,
Sure.
and then how mommies and daddies, but we'd never like had a talk about it or even like what masturbation was.
Yeah.
And so I told him, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And for some reason he thought I was lying. I just would not let it go. And I kept telling him like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what that means. And he got so mad, he eventually hit me across the face and screamed at me to get out of the lodge. And I remember getting up from that couch and it literally felt like ripping Band-Aids off my legs because I'd sweated so much that it was like my skin was sticking to the leather.
Wow.
And I remember running out of the lodge and, down the hill across the bridge. And to get to Alamoth, it was this like dark winding road back in the woods. And I remember really crying then. Like I had missed my parents before, but at that point I was like, why did they just leave me here, And why can't I go home? And really just missing my family. And I went back to my bedroom at the fourplex and just cried into my pillow because I was so scared and so sad. And
Didn't know what happened, probably,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And it probably was no more than 45 minutes. One of the Maidens came and said that Victor was on the phone for me and he had asked me to come back to the lodge. So of course I went, and his whole demeanor had changed. He was so calm.
Maybe act like nothing had happened.
Yes.
prior.
Yeah. Had me come sit back on the couch again. Didn't even bring up anything about masturbation.
Internally at this point, you have to be petrified.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like very, again, like that first incident, a deer in headlights, just so scared to move a muscle.
Yeah.
And he had just hit you too, so you're wondering if something like that could happen, or
Yeah. He started in on how Jesus Christ had Mary Magdalene in the Bible to take care of him, how the Apostle Paul had Phoebe and probably other women when he traveled throughout Asia, and how in this situation, because I had dedicated my life to serving in the church, this was a way that God would allow him to show God's love towards me. And that even though he would have sex with me, I could remain a virgin spiritually. And this was like good and natural. And
so twisted.
Yeah. Yeah. And still, I mean, I don't think I said a word. I was just, I remember looking at him, looking at the fire, and like I can still see the flames just dancing and the embers burning. And he had me get up and he led me into his bedroom. And I remember he laid a towel on the bed because he said, sometimes your first time having sex, you can bleed. And so that even like made me more scared.
yeah.
And yeah, that first time I literally just laid there. I did not move. It was almost like an out of body experience.
Oh,
There was this deck, these glass doors that went out onto the deck that was attached to his bedroom. And it was almost like I was standing out there looking at myself being raped. It was just so terrifying. Did not at all feel like God's love. I just felt like so alone and scared and didn't even know what to do, like what to think. And I remember at one point he was getting mad because I wasn't being passionate enough. Oh. And I didn't know. I just laid there. And then that was pretty much it. He sent me back to the fourplex and I just cried myself to sleep that night and was like, this is my life now? Like I did not ask for this. I did not want this. And I didn't know what to do because my parents sent me here. Like who was I gonna tell, you know?
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm so sorry you went through that. That is horrible.
It's just awful
Go
that
ahead, Tommy.
Somebody like that betraying your trust, everybody there, and just taking advantage of underage. Were you 13 then?
13.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And
then to twist it and say it's a biblical thing is just evil.
Yeah.
It's evil. It is.
Yeah. And still very much looking like a kid. Like I hadn't even gotten my period yet. I was a very late bloomer. So
at this point, did you know this was happening to other girls your age?
Not yet.
Okay.
No. I mean, at that point you start when if Victor asks for somebody to go late at night, you start wondering, you know?
Yeah.
It was something that was never talked about until I think it was January of 2001. So I maybe was still 13, just on the cusp of turning 14.
Okay.
And Victor had my parents come to the lodge along with his like right-hand man. And I was there in the beginning of this meeting.
And this was not long after this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, just a few months after this. And Victor basically told them the same thing, except he said he wouldn't have sex with me till I turned 18. Meanwhile, he's already been raping me. Yeah. And told them that basically the same things. Jesus Christ had Mary Magdalene. The Apostle Paul had Phoebe. And he used my parents as an example. He's like, Carmen, if you were out there unmarried, serving the church, traveling, and Peggy was an unmarried woman, like it would be natural for you guys to take care of one another and for when you visited her area to, for you to have sex with her. And hearing that, like with my parents, that just made me feel so awkward.
So
yes.
weird.
I was like, what is happening? And I thought for sure at that point, I was like, surely in my mind, I was like, they'll say no. Yeah. They'll be like, okay, you're coming home. You're not staying here. I left at some point, so I don't know all that was talked about. But when I came back to the lodge, they were wrapping up and my dad and Victor were walking together and my mom was walking next to me and she was like squeezing my arm, so excited for me. And I, again, didn't say anything to her. And I think I was holding also a lot of shame because of what was happening. So I didn't know how to act around my parents either. Like it was almost like I didn't really know them anymore, if that makes any sense. Like I had grown up being so close to my family and loved them. And I think I just felt a lot of guilt and shame for what was going on, even though none of it was my fault. I didn't know that. And I didn't even know at the time it was rape. I don't think I'd ever really heard that word before.
Did you even feel like you were betrayed, or did you just feel like this is part of life now? Or, I mean, maybe a little of both, or...
I wouldn't say betrayed. I just felt alone. And I knew that I wanted them, but I didn't know how to be. I knew that
Were you angry with them?
I don't know if angry is the word. I think just sad and maybe disappointed.
Okay.
I also felt like those thoughts I was having were evil thoughts. Like I was the evil one because this is what God wanted.
Oh, wow.
Right.
You know? So I thought I was the one in the wrong, that I needed to renew my mind. I needed to get right with God. And so it was a lot of shame and guilt on my end. Like, okay, clearly this is what God wants for you. This is what Victor wants. This is what your parents want. So I need to get over these
clear
feelings.
My thoughts up. Yeah. Okay. Having a walk with your mom and she grabs your arm almost giddy. In a weird way, do you think maybe she's vicariously living through at this point?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think she's jealous that she's not the one, honestly, which is really sick when you think about it. And I know that later on he was sleeping with a lot of the married women, and I do believe she was one of them. But I think just the way the adult women acted around him, they were jealous of the Maidens, which is really like sad when you think about it. You know, all these young girls just ripped away from their families. And
so were the men at this point, were they pretty
oblivious
or brainwashed, I guess? Like if they would have found out that, like your dad, if he would have found out that that happened to you, would he have figured a way to justify it, or would he have knocked Victor's head off? Like as a father with a daughter, oh my goodness.
I know, dude. I mean,
no,
I was thinking of you.
Yeah. No, even now I'm like, I would literally take a bullet for Frankie or kill. Please don't let that happen. You know, like God forbid I wouldn't protect her with my life. My dad, I want to say it was almost like a spirit of fear. You know, I think the men and maybe the women were so afraid. My dad and I were on Dr. Phil together, and Dr. Phil pulled up a couple of his statements that he gave to the police. And at one point he did say, I knew what was going on, but I was too afraid of getting kicked out of the church, so I didn't say anything. And so I don't think he would have done that. And okay, Victor's saying I'm going to wait till 18. Yeah. Really? Like I'm only 13, maybe 14, and you don't, like, no red flags, nothing.
And why would you say that at 13?
Right. Yeah. Yes. Like it just, I have a hard time believing really any of the adults who say I didn't know. It just, you know?
For sure. So, did Victor, was he an imposing figure, or was it more of a psychological fear? Probably more of a psychological fear.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he eventually started wearing like this head thing that looked like what a shepherd would wear back in the old times. He would carry his staff around.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Like, just, I look at it now and I'm like, what the heck?
Like, what a nerd.
Yeah. Yeah. But Yeah, definitely more psychological,
Sure.
true narcissist.
Okay.
One more question just to paint a full picture
Yeah.
for, this camp for the Maidens. What's about the average age, or what's the age range, I should say, maybe oldest, youngest? And then are there married women there as well? Because you'd mentioned like you being under a woman, if that's someone like your mother who's maybe there or goes back and forth. But what's the age range? And then are there older women there as well?
Jess was the youngest. She was 12.
Okay.
And then I was 13. So we were the youngest of the 10. And the oldest, I believe, when Jess was 12, I believe she was 24.
Okay.
And she was the oldest maiden.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there were married families who lived there. So like husband and wives with
That
their
lived
children.
on that property with
Yes.
you? Okay.
Yeah. So, and
Got
some
it.
of them is who we were assigned to.
Okay.
Like taking care of them and cleaning stuff around there and
Yeah.
keeping the property up.
Yeah, because it was huge. The camp was a huge property, and it was where we had the big chapel, the big dining hall. So we would host, the believers, and they would come in and, so they needed help.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
did all of that.
Yeah. Lots of work.
So let's jump back into when you're walking with your mom and she's almost giddy for you. And like you said, maybe even jealous. You're still thinking you're going to go home with them. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I realized at that point that I wasn't. So that was like basically it. They got in their car and then left. Like, I don't even think I said anything to my parents except maybe goodbye, because I just didn't know what to say. And it was shortly, back to your question, like if the Maidens ever talked about, knew if this was going on.
Yeah.
That's when it was shortly after that meeting that Jess and I were in one of the bedrooms in the fourplex. And we looked at each other and we just kind of said, did Victor have a meeting with your parents? Yes. Did Victor have a meeting with your parents? Yes. And that confirmed, like, we didn't have to say anything else. We knew what was going on. And it was the oldest maiden who walked by and heard us talking about it, told on us, and Jess and I were separated from that point forward for a while. We weren't allowed to share the same bedroom. We weren't allowed to be working together because we had been found talking about what was going on.
Golly.
Yeah. So that was tough because her and I were like best friends. We played the guitars together and just close in age. So we had a lot.
A lot in common there.
Were there pockets of joy throughout this time? I mean, were there pockets of like you look back and have some friendships, relationships that you look back to and go, there were some moments of maybe not joy is the right word, but just of feeling either happiness or some joy or normalcy in any of this? Or did it just feel so, on edge the whole time? And like,
I think at the beginning it was more on edge. As the years went on and the Maidens got closer, because in the beginning, if one of us got reproved, we would kind of avoid that person, because we didn't know, it wasn't like we came into this all being good friends.
Okay.
And there was a huge age difference between the 10 of us.
Yeah.
But as the years went on, we really became a sisterhood. And so I do have good memories with some of them. And I think that's been almost the biggest loss for me is they really became my family.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, losing 9 of your best friends and it's still like hurts, there's still a hole there that I don't think will ever be filled. So yeah, but there were moments, and I can share like more of them.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah. But after that meeting with my parents, Victor did something, he called it the salt ceremony.
Okay.
So this happened February of 2001. So like a month after he met with my parents, and he had all of the parents of the Maidens and the elders come to the camp. And this happened in the dining hall. He had all of us, all 10 of us stand, and he had, do you want me to take this stuff out now?
Go for it.
He put these veils, I can't believe I still have this.
Wow.
Veils over our heads.
Golly.
And he gave us he had us all take salt with him, which I thought was weird because my parents took salt when they were married. And I think salt is so pure. It signified, actually, I don't know what it signified for my parents, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't even know what,
But I know that salt is pure. And so he basically had us all line up, had these veils over our heads, and went down the line and asked if we wanted to like dedicate ourselves to serving in the church.
Okay.
And we said, I do. And then he would take the salt and lick his finger and dip it in the salt and put it on. I think he put it on our tongue first, and then he did it on his tongue. And this is still the original salt.
Dang.
It has lasted through all my moves from 2001.
So were you able to, can I hold it?
Yeah.
Were you able to, did you take this just as a...
So we were all given a salt dish. So this isn't like the one that he used, but we were given one as a present.
That's so weird.
After.
And they were all different. Yeah, that's mine. Yeah. And then he gave us a ring too that he put on our ring fingers, which like doesn't even fit anymore because I was just still a child. Look how tiny that is.
Golly.
So this is this ring had meanings. So there's a cord around the ring right here,
Okay.
which signified the cords of love that entwined us and Victor together.
Okay.
And then the barley sheaf is from the book of Ruth, when Ruth asked Boaz to cover her.
Yep.
And then I don't know if the stone, I'm sure the stone had meaning. I don't really remember, but.
Golly. Lindsay.
Weird symbolism already in the ring, tying yourselves to him, to Victor, not the church at this time. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And-
did you feel though, like I have to say yes, or did you?
Oh yeah. No, I skipped over this part. He had asked us before this if we could all write letters to him and say if we wanted to stay or not. And you know, my parents had already left me there twice, you know, from the first time from July and then from this last time when they met with Victor. So I didn't think they wanted me anymore. And I had a feeling all the rest of the maidens were going to say yes. So in my letter, I felt like I had no options.
Yeah.
I just said I wanted to stay. And so then this ceremony happened and he did a teaching that night that was called More Than Concubines, which again, that's what I'm like. The adults had no, like.
Yeah, like connect the dots. You know, at this point, you have a ceremony with the veil and you're pledging yourself to him. Or was there any wording in there about it being to the church, or was it solely tied to?
I mean, it was to serve in the church and dedicate, but also like to help Victor. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he has this message about you're more than concubines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Still.
And nothing
one,
from the parents of these young girls.
And was this ceremony for the whole camp? So all 150 people are there?
No, this was just the maidens.
The
parents and the elders of the church.
Were your siblings there?
No.
Okay.
Just adults. And then us kids.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow. And you wonder if that message about more than concubines, if he's just trying to get the parents used to the idea that, hey, you know, things may happen type thing. Like you wonder if that's part of his manipulation and brainwashing there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, that's just awful.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I know that my family, especially my mother, more so, she saw it as such an honor, you know, like what honor I was bringing to our family that I was chosen, you know, that I was having this position. So, I mean, anytime, there were 2 times that I tried to leave, you know, she was devastated, like did not want me back at home at all, which we can get into those if you want, but.
How did your siblings do? Were they at this ceremony?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't. For the parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not really sure what they were told. Probably that I was enjoying my life.
And they probably were jealous or aspiring to maybe I'll get to do that someday too.
Yeah. 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 Because I've definitely heard, I think from Krista on the podcast and then from some of people who have left, you know, the Maidens were really looked up to. We were put on this pedestal, which was crazy to hear Krista's experience in the podcast when she talked about, you know, what the Maidens were wearing or what fabric they had.
Yeah.
That's what they wanted. When knowing what I was going through at the time, it just made me feel so like icky that they were idolizing us because that's what they were being fed.
Yeah.
While I was like screaming on the inside to get out with nobody there to help me.
Oh, it's terrible. So at this point, were you having to wear anything different? Were you making your own clothes at this point?
Yeah, at this point we had started making our own clothes. Mm-hmm.
And why was that? Just
Yeah, we weren't really allowed to go into town. If we needed anything from the grocery store, we would write it down on a piece of paper, and one of the married women on their trips would go in and get it. But yeah, I think it was to just be more modest, you know. In the beginning, we really wore a lot of dull colors, you know, dark browns and navy blues, olive greens. I hated sewing. Like, I remember at one point we were in charge of making our own clothes. I was maybe like 14 or 15. And then my protest was I decided to hand sew everything because I just hated sewing so much. Yeah. And I was pretty good at it, but still I was like, I'm not doing this.
I don't like it.
Yeah. But I remember one summer, I think it was the summer of 2002, I had one 4-panel olive green elastic waistband skirt to wear and 2 t-shirts, a red one and a blue one. That was all I had all summer.
That is wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was to look the part, though.
Yeah.
Is that right? Or was there like financial problems? You guys couldn't afford it? Like,
I'm sure I wasn't privy to any financial stuff, but I'm sure there were. But like everyone started sewing, like even all the families in the church, everyone was just making their own clothes. So it wasn't just the Maidens. Yeah. Once the Maidens became the Maidens, things did really start locking down more. You know, I don't think people really made trips, you know, to, like we went to Duluth, and I don't think people were doing that as much. And yeah, everyone started making their own clothes. I think our gardens really expanded, you know, like everything was grown.
So everything you ate was from the
except, you know, like I think we had Cisco. They're like a big, so we would get like beans and sugar and big things of, you know, like vinegar and stuff from there. But other than that, I mean, we even tapped our own maple trees.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, made maple syrup. Obviously had the butcher shop, so all our meat was just grown, and we did tons of canning in the, you know, late summer, fall, so we would have stuff to get us through the winter.
At this point, have you ever had the thought or desire to like escape, like just run and never look back?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, Jess and I talked about that quite a bit. I think maybe like 14 and 13 at the time, and then 15 and 14. We talked about it a few times. We were like, should we just steal one of the camp vans and
just get out of here?
And our destination was always Petrie's, which is this gas station / bait shop in Finlayson. And maybe because we didn't know, like, where would we go, you know? Yeah. And at that point too, we were like, okay, who would believe us? They would probably just call our parents. Yeah. We don't have any forms of ID. Like, I didn't have even a birth certificate, or like my mom had all that stuff still, you know? Yeah. I didn't know phone numbers. I mean, this was before maybe cell phones were around. I don't know. Were cell phones around in 2000?
Yeah, they were huge though.
Okay. Yeah. So I didn't have any numbers memorized. Yep. And the way they set up the camp was the only phone that we could use to call out to the outside world was in the big dining hall. Oh, so we had a phone at the fourplex, but it was wired to only be connected to the camp phones. So we couldn't call out anywhere unless some, you know, was there to hear us.
All right, everyone, we will come back next week to finish this episode. Part 2 will drop Tuesday at 5 a.m. Lindsay is incredibly powerful. She took down a nasty, evil, twisted man, and you've got to hear the rest of the story because it's incredible.